Hi and welcome to another episode of the Elevated Beauty Podcast. I'm your host, Emily Fouts, and in today's episode, we're going to be talking about skincare layering. There's definitely a method to the madness, and I think that's where a lot of people get overwhelmed when someone introduces a skincare routine, or you may see someone else's skincare routine and it's way more products than you're used to using. It's kind of overwhelming not knowing the particular order in which products go in. So I'm going to lay that all out, and then you'll come to find, if you are newer to the skincare community and this is a newer thing where you're trying to take better care of yourself. So I'll kind of teach you the science behind why we layer and how we layer things, and then you can grab any product and know exactly where to put it into your regimen. Okay, so first I want to start off by saying some people prefer simpler routines. Some people prefer having one or two extra products or whatever. So I'm one of those people where I like to do what my skin loves, so I don't really base it on how much I want to use, but how much my skin will benefit from. But with that being said, with every client, I usually recommend around the same number of products for everyone. But if someone is a skincare junkie, kind of like myself, you'll definitely have some extra products that you might use weekly, or, just different products that you'll use as treatments. So you will have, for a proper skincare regimen, you will have two separate routines, which can kind of intertwine with each other in terms of the products. So you'll have an AM and a PM routine. So for me, I use the same cleanser all around. I've said this before, I don't use a cleanser in the AM. I only cleanse PM because my skin is drier. But for some reason, if I do cleanse my skin in the morning, I just use the same cleanser. I use the same eye cream. I usually only use eye cream at night, but besides that, I do have completely two different regimens. The only products that would overlap would be like my eye cream or my beauty oil, which I love, and then my cleanser. So when you're applying skincare, you may have heard of the term thinnest to thickest. If you haven't, that's pretty self-explanatory. You want to apply your products from thinnest in viscosity to thickest. And the reason for that, it has to do with absorption. It has to do with the molecular size. So obviously you're going to cleanse first, so that one doesn't really apply. Obviously there are some cleansers that are like creams, and then there's some that are gels or foams or whatever. So you don't need to worry about what viscosity your cleanser has. Obvious, your cleanser goes first. And so then you want to follow from thinnest to thickest. So then you'll apply your treatment serums after you cleanse. And treatment serums, they are lower in molecular weight than most moisturizers are. So you definitely want to apply them first so that they can absorb into the deeper layers of your skin, and then you seal that off with a moisturizer. So for many people, and much like myself, you don't just have one treatment serum, you have a few, and some of them might actually be pretty similar in viscosity. So I generally will say to apply a hydrating serum first, and then after that you will apply your treatment serum, whether it be a lightening and brightening or a retinoid serum, because it's just going to kind of help to dilute those serums that might have alpha hydroxy acids in them. But also, just as a rule of thumb, always put your hydrating serum first. So I do have a hydrating serum from Glymed Plus that is the Daily Lift Serum, and it's really, really thin. It's like water basically, and it absorbs really quickly. So I always apply that first, And then I will apply if I'm not using my retinoid that night, I will apply another humectant serum on top of that because it is higher in viscosity. And then I will apply my moisturizer. And yeah, that's pretty self-explanatory, but it kind of gets a little tricky, like I said, when you're using multiples. So if anything has active ingredients that can be stimulating, like alpha hydroxy acids, beta hydroxy acid, retinoids, anything like that, definitely put that on top of whatever serum that might be hydrating or soothing. And then, of course, you'll finish off with your moisturizer and your eye cream. So I'm going to get into where do we put in treatments, like if you want to do a treatment mask at home or something like that. So you're going to cleanse and then exfoliate, and you can use a mask for the exfoliation step. That's usually what I do. I do like a hydrating mask, but if I'm not using a hydrating mask, I'm using a mask that has an enzyme in it or an alpha hydroxy acid, so that is the exfoliating step. So I do that immediately after I cleanse, and then once you wipe that treatment mask off, you follow up with your other routine steps, such as your serums and your moisturizers. And one other thing that I find people have confusion on, or, because not everyone is used to applying SPF until they kind of know better or are taught what the benefits are. So for people that do and don't wear makeup, there are a couple different ways that you can layer. So, of course, you will do your AM skincare routine, whatever that is. And for me, I don't wear face makeup. If I do, I just use cream blush generally. So what I do is I do all of my AM skincare, and then on top of that, I do my, which is a part of my AM skincare, but it is my daily SPF tinted moisturizer. So I kind of put that on as my foundation, I guess you would say. Not as my foundation, but like in place of. And so then I just continue on with the rest of my makeup. And even if you were to use foundation, you would still apply your SPF under it. And then you would use a primer if you chose. But in my opinion, an SPF could act as a primer unless it's like super hydrating, which that's not really the ones that I go for anyways. If someone is going for like a really hydrating and glowy finish, I would assume that they're not going to apply foundation, over it anyways. But yeah, I don't think a primer is necessary. But if you want to, you can definitely apply that over an SPF and then continue on with your makeup. So talking of reapplication, if you are wearing face makeup, if you are a powder lover, you most likely are not going to want to apply your SPF daily moisturizer on top of all of your makeup that has powder on it, because it's going to ruin your base. Powder is meant to mattify, so you don't want to put a liquid on top of that. So what do? There are powder SPFs, and there is one, if you go on my highlights on my Instagram, Elevated Beauty EB, you will find a lot of my favorite products, and then I have a section where I have favorite SPFs, and one of them is from Supergoop. It is a powder application. It has the brush connected to it, and so it's easy to carry it around with you in your purse, and that is for the people who do like to wear powder on their face. That is an easy way to protect your skin throughout the day and easily reapply without disturbing your makeup base. And then for people who don't wear powder, like myself, you can easily just reapply your SPF over on top of it. Even if I do choose to use a spot concealer, I can still reapply my SPF over that and not disturb anything that's going on underneath, because it is applied so lightly and it's not powdered to mattify my face. And there's a little bit of a different way that I apply it if I do have that makeup on. I kind of just tap it to make sure that I'm not disturbing and moving around and wiping away any cream blush. So that's what I do. It's a lot easier than you might think it would be. I didn't start reapplying my SPF until I was in my early 20s, which is, that's pretty good, I guess, but it was foreign to me. I'm like, well, I put makeup on, now I can't reapply anything over it. Yes, you can. It's just, you have to be knowledgeable about what texture you're putting on top of it. And one last little tip that I'll put in here is when you are applying products over each other, sometimes the consistency of the product might not agree with the consistency of another that you're going to put on it, so it might need a little bit more time to absorb into your skin. So for me, I have an antioxidant serum that I use. I'll just go ahead and mention two of them. So I had one that I used was the Living Cell Clarifier, and it absorbed a lot quicker than the Fulvic Elixir. So I would apply that on and then just continue on with the next steps. I wouldn't have to wait any time in between. But with a Fulvic Elixir, it does take a little more time to absorb, and it leaves like little tackiness during that resting time. So you want to give it a minute before you apply other things on top of it, at least for the products that I use with it. So if I use the Fulvic Elixir and then use my beauty oil on top of it, sometimes it will kind of ball up. I guess the term I'm looking for is like coagulate a little bit. So if I'll rub it in and then I'll get these, the little balls and stuff. And so that tells me that, well, it didn't absorb, and now they're kind of just like meshing together and not agreeing with each other and separating. So if you experience that happening, that's either telling you that the product underneath didn't absorb fully yet, or it is thicker than the product that you are putting on top of it. This was just a quick little episode for anyone, like I said, that is kind of figuring out their new skincare routine. Of course, if you guys want to have a discussion on the topic or anything related, please comment on my video or my post regarding this episode on my Instagram, Elevated Beauty Podcast. And as always, I will see you guys next Monday, 8 a.m. Mountain Standard Time for another episode.